Okay, so before we get into the demonstration, I wanted to give you an overview of what we're going to be covering in this demo. So here are the 6 areas that we're going to touch on in this demonstration. The first area is going to be the new subscription management menu. And number 2, we're going to explore the new disclosure form dashboard. Number 3, we're going to give a high-level view of the projects dashboard. And then number 4, we're going to do a deep dive into the subscriptions dashboard because this is sort of like the main dashboard where we do all of the work in subscription management. And then number 5, we're going to show you the new project delegation dashboard. This is a really cool dashboard where AVs will be granting permissions to designees and allowing them to view and edit subscriptions on their projects. And then lastly, we're going to make some subscription changes. We're going to create a subscription, we're going to edit a subscription, and then we're going to terminate a subscription. And then in the process, show you the validations that are related to doing that. So let's get started. Okay, so this is my dashboard, right? This is my main dashboard. This is my main screen. And as you can see, I don't have any new menu here. There isn't a new menu here. And so what I'm going to do is off to the left here, I'm going to grant this user, myself, permissions to view the new menu. So let me do that. All right, that is done. So let me refresh my page. There we go. This is the new CS subscription management menu. And a quick note, in order to view this menu, you would have to be a subscriber agent. However, if you are not a subscriber agent, you're going to want to request permission. So you're going to reach out to the PA and just say, hey, can I get access to subscription management? All right, so let's get into this new menu. As you can see, there are 4 submenu items here. We have the disclosure form dashboard, we have the projects dashboard, we have the subscriptions dashboard, and then we have the projects delegation dashboard. Now let's just dive into it. In this dashboard, you're going to view all of the disclosure forms that are associated to your account. So this is all disclosure forms that you would normally view on the other disclosure form dashboard. Something also to note is that we're going to see some data that says confidential, and this is just a scrambled database. It's scrambling the data and it's making sure that none of the information that you're seeing today includes any personal identifiable information. So no PII is being shown here. But again, this is the dashboard, the disclosure form dashboard. And on this dashboard, you're going to have a bunch of columns. And these columns are going to look fairly familiar to you all. For example, you're going to see the subscription size on disclosure form. And this information is coming directly from the disclosure form that's on file. Kilowatt produced, annual escalation rate, payment as a percentage of community solar credits. And here at the end is something that I wanted to point out. Is disclosure form archived? So this is a column that you're going to want to pay attention to because this is going to tell you whether a disclosure form has been archived or not. So you can't really filter on this, but you can view that it says, no, this is not an archived disclosure form. Let's scroll back to the left. Something to also note is that these columns are movable. So if you wanted to have disclosure form status at the very front, you could do that. And if you wanted to filter by vendor ID, let's say 49, you can do that as well. But then let's say you wanted to reset all this. You can clear the filters and then you can reset the columns, and any customization would just go away and it would be default. It would be set back to default. You can also export this data if you wanted to. It'd be a lot of data, but you can export it. And that is the disclosure form dashboard. Let's move to the projects dashboard. All right, so here we have the projects dashboard. So this is a high-level view of if I'm an AV, this is a high level view of all of my projects. I'm going to see all of my CS projects here listed. And something to note is that in order for projects to be visible on the screen, they have to be Part 1 verified, Part 2 verified, and ICC approved, pending or approved. Yeah. Um, so again, here is a list of my projects. I have some sample projects, Solar Project 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I can also see which designees have been assigned to this project. So you can see that D3476, this designee can not only view subscriptions in this project, but they can also subscribe to this project. But then if you move down here to project number 5, you'll see that there are no designees assigned to this project. Also, if there are multiple designees assigned to this project, you would have the ID followed by a comma, and then you'd see the next ID followed by a comma, and so on and so forth. Yeah, just scrolling off to the right, you would see the totals subscribed on each project, the percent subscribed on each project. And let me scroll more. Yeah, so this is all relevant information to each project. Going back to here, I wanted to show you, I wanted to show you how to view the subscriptions that have been subscribed to each of these projects. So if, let's say you want to see, hey, I want to see all the subscriptions for Solar Project 2. I would click on Solar Project 2, the row, and then I would drill down into that by pressing this View Subscriptions button. And so that is going to take me to a different page. And this page is very similar to the subscriptions page, but it's a drill down view of each project. And so here you would see a list of disclosure forms or subscriptions that have been subscribed to the project that I just drilled down into. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to my projects dashboard. So I'm going to jump to the project delegation dashboard right here, because what I want to show you is I want to show you how we would add a designee to Solar Project number 5. So let me navigate to our new project delegation dashboard. And here, again, as an AV, I'm going to see all of the projects that are related to my AV ID. And so these are all projects that I own. And so what I can do here is I can see, again, you can see per project which designees are assigned to it. But let's say I wanted to assign a designee to Solar Project 5. What I would do is I would press here, and then I would see this pop up. On this pop-up, you would see all of the eligible designees that are associated to my AV account. You would also see all of the assigned designees, designees that have already been assigned to this project. And then you would see a column showing history, any history of adding a designee to a project or removing them from a project. You would see that history right here with a timestamp. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add D3476 designee to this project. And once I click add, you'll see that the designee moved from this column to this column. So they were eligible before, now they're assigned. And that is it. That is how we grant designee permissions to not only view my projects, but to also subscribe to my projects. All right, let's close that window. Now let's go back to this projects page, and you will see that this is now populated where it wasn't before. All right, so that is the projects delegation dashboard. Now let's go to the main dashboard, the subscription dashboard. As I mentioned before, this is where all of subscriber management, literally the management part of subscriber management is going to be done. It's going to be done on this page. So here, I see a list of all my subscriptions that are subscribed to my projects. I have a filter right now. I'm filtering by my vendor ID because I only want to show these two for now. But yeah, you can see the list of all subscriptions that you have visibility to or that are subscribed to your projects on this page. Um, let's go, let's start at the top. So at the top, we have this toggle button. This toggle button will allow you to view unsubscribed disclosure forms as well. So right now we're looking at subscriptions or disclosure forms that are subscribed. Let's say I wanted to see disclosure forms that are not subscribed, because really those are the ones that we're going to want to, work with. So I'm going to press this toggle button, and you'll see that it kind of, just unhides all of the unsubscribed disclosure forms. Disclosure forms, again, that are ready to be subscribed. Untoggle that so that we don't have too much information. And I'm going to focus on these two subscriptions right here. All right, so looking at these two subscriptions, you can see I can scroll all the way to the right. This is very similar to the disclosure form, dashboard, but these represent subscriptions. These are now subscriptions. And I scroll all the way to the right, and you can see that that column that says, is disclosure form archived? No. Again, we're seeing confidential information here because I'm on a scrambled server right now for this demonstration. However, if you were an AV or a designee, you would see the actual information. However, and I'm going to cover this later on, I, as an AV, will see any disclosure form or all disclosure form data that is associated to my projects. However, we do have situations where there will be multiple designees working on one project or subscribing to one project. And while they will have visibility to those subscriptions, any PII data will be redacted from them, so it would show blank. And I'll show you an example of that later. But let's go back to the very beginning and let's talk about how do we subscribe in subscription management. So the first step would be you would set your filters. Filtering is very important. There are tens and upon tens of thousands of records in the portal, the subscription records. And if you were to work or not filter, you would have to dive through a lot of data to get what you need. However, I highly suggest that you use the filters, find your data, target it, and then export that data out. So you can do that by pressing this export button. And when you press that export button, you're going to be prompted with this pop-up. And essentially what this pop-up is it's asking you to create a name for this report that you are exporting. So I'm going to say it's test2, and I'm going to export that. And so one thing to note is that when you export out a report here, it doesn't instantly export out to your computer to be generated. So instead, we created this queue where when you request a report, it actually puts it in the queue and it starts working on it in the background. And so here you can see a list of reports that I have generated in the past, and you can see that the one that I just generated is ready to be downloaded. So it's one extra step. However, I believe that it's better to have it this way rather than having a spinning wheel for up to a minute and just you being stuck on a page waiting for your report to be downloaded. So let's take a look at what got downloaded. So I'm going to download this test2 report here. So it's downloaded. I'm going to open it up. It's opening it up. It's opening up on the side here of my computer. Oh, there it is. When you export this data, you're not only exporting the data itself, you're exporting it in the template format that you would use to make changes. For example, if you want to terminate, you can just terminate. And then there are two other fields that you would have to update here, but then you would, let's say I want to terminate this record here. I would save it and I would import this file right back in and it would terminate that subscription. So I'm going to close this because that is not how I want to show you how to terminate a subscription. I'm going to do that in a second. But I did want to show you the report queue and show how it holds your, or it generates and holds your reports for you. Let's go back to the subscription page. So that was the export button. Let's talk about the update subscriptions. All right. So when you press update subscriptions, it's going to prompt you for a file. So before I get into this, I just want to note that when we initially conducted our market research, we found that AVs and designees wanted to um, update and manage subscriptions in bulk. They didn't want to do it one by one. And initially we were going to design it so that, you'd go to a record and then you would terminate and then you would add a new record. But really that was a very time consuming process. And we quickly realized that it was more valuable to be able to do make changes in bulk, 100 records at a time, 200 records at a time. And so that is the approach that we took. And so similar to creating disclosure forms with a CSV template, you are creating subscriptions with a CSV template. And again, I showed you that template a second ago, but I'm going to show it to you again. So I can download that template here by pressing that download button, and the template will appear. All right, so this is the identical template that we saw like a minute earlier with that exported data. So it's the same format, it just had data populated in rows 6 and 7. So this is the template that you would use, or a subscriber agent would use, to make changes and edits and terminations in to subscriptions. This is the template right here. Now, rather than fill that out live, I have some test files here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a subscription. So I have some test files here. Test create. And I'm going to press import. Oh, let me show you what that record looks like. So let me, before I open it up, I'm going to show you that template right here. Okay, so as you may recognize, this is the template information at the top. This row number 6, contains all of the information that I would need in order to create a new subscription. So right off the bat, you would see that you would need the project ID, you would need the disclosure form ID, you would need to include the status of active, you would need the size of this subscription, the date of the size effective date, the type, the choice ID, and date subscribed, subscriber sent to utility. So this is the data that you would need in order to create a subscription. So I already have that here. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to move this, and I'm going to import that in. Something interesting and something that we included is this warning message here. So right here, you will see if you intend to make edits, you will know right away if your changes or that Excel template has any errors. Here we can see that I have 0 errors, but this is kind of a warning message letting you know, hey, you have 0 failures. Do you wish to proceed? Obviously, yes, in this case. However, let's say that you forgot to include some information. This warning would let you know that there is one row that's going to fail, and it's that it's per subscription. Each row represents a subscription. So it would warn you, hey, this is going to fail. Do you wish to proceed? one of the enhancements that we're working on right now, and that we hope to have in place fairly soon by March 3rd, will be to include the failed description of what's going to fail right here on the screen. We don't have that here for this test, but we will have that later. In this case, we know that this is going to pass validation, so I am going to proceed. All right. So I just added a subscription, and I believe that subscription is right here. This is the subscription that I just added. All right. Now, yeah, so that is how we create a subscription. Now we're going to edit a subscription. So let's say I want to change the size of this subscription. So I'm going to go to this file right here. And let me just show you what it looks like before I initiate it or import it. Again, you would have to have the project app ID, disclosure form ID, and then um, this is wrong. This should be active. And let's say I wanted to make a change. Let's say I wanted to change it to 15 kilowatts. So let's import this file in. Let's make a size change edit. So I'm going to close that out. I'm going to go to update subscriptions. I'm going to choose that file that I just was working on, and it's this one right here. And I'm going to import that in. Oh. All right, so there we are. I imported that file, or the system evaluated that import file. It found that there are 0 rows that will fail validation. Do you wish to proceed? And if I proceed, so that would have changed the size of the disclosure form that, or the subscription that I just imported. All right, so the next thing is we're going to terminate this record. We're going to terminate this subscription right here. So let's open up that test file. See what that looks like. So when you terminate a record, you are going to need the termination status. You are also going to need to know the subscription, the date terminated. So let's say it's 2/13/2025. Also a termination reason. And that is all you need. So let's save that. Let's close it. And let's import that file in. All right, we know that 0 rows will fail validation. That means the change that I'm going to make is going to pass our validations, and I'm going to proceed. All right, this record right here, or this subscription should show terminated. And maybe I just need to refresh my screen. Yeah, so it's terminated now. All right. Now, what I want to show is a termination that fails the validation. So something's wrong with the file that I'm importing, and the system's going to catch it, and it's going to say, "Hey, this is going to fail validation. Do you want to proceed?" And then I'm gonna go ahead and proceed, and then I'm gonna find out what's wrong with my file. So let's let's import that file. I've already created it, and I believe it's missing a date. So I'm going to open it. I'm going to import it. Okay, here we go. So one row will fail validation. Do you wish to proceed? I'm going to proceed. Okay, so you saw it just downloaded that response file. Let's open that up and let's see what's wrong. All right, I'm going to maximize this. Enable editing. Okay, so right away, this looks like the file that I just imported, which is great because I can just re-import, fix this and re-import it back in. However, something that I want to show you is in the very first column on the row where your data is, there is a message here that the system is going to give us. And here, this message is going to tell us why this change failed validation. So column 27, this column right here, date must be between the subscription size effective date and today and in this format. So I essentially forgot to put a date in row 20 or column 27. And so the validation is telling me, hey, put a date here, re-import it, and you'll be fine. Um, so that is how you would know how to catch an issue that you're having if you're not able to if you're failing the validation. So you would essentially go to the column where that validation failure occurred, and then you would read this message right here, and then you would fix that, and then you would re-import it. Let me go back. All right. Now that we're on this template here, I did want to point out the validations. So um, one of the unique things about this CSV template is that it includes what's required in the template file itself. So normally a CSV template would show the column name, but in addition to the column name, we're showing you instructions for that column. We're also showing you what's required in that column. For example, let's go back to column 27. Um, is column 27 required? Only if 25 is terminated. So if 25 equals terminated, then you need a date here. Yeah. So that's how the validations work. Again, here we have a yes is required. And so let's see when it's required. Oh, so it's asking for a number and it's a text. So it's a text with 50 characters. Um, this validation right here on column 31st is a dropdown. And so it's only going to accept values from a dropdown, which would be residential, small commercial, large commercial, industrial, and government or nonprofit. So it's telling you exactly what you need to include in this column here. And so that is the beauty of this template is that not only can you use it to import data, it helps you identify where you're having problems and it helps you fix your issues. All right. That is subscription management.